I should have known something was off when there were no smells. No garlic bread in the oven, no mom's signature perfume lingering by the door. Just quiet, stiff and unnatural. Dad had sent the text. Family dinner 5 sharp. Big news, be on time. I'd smiled thinking maybe he finally wanted to talk about the grad school fellowship I'd been shortlisted for. Or maybe even Grant, my maybe not quite ex-boyfriend, had just landed a consulting job in Phoenix. Maybe they were ready to see I was becoming someone. But the moment I stepped into the living room, I knew this wasn't celebration, it was something else. They were already sitting. Mom hands folded like she was bracing for a funeral. Derek with that smug grin he gets when he thinks he's in control. And Verena legs crossed perfectly chin. Lifted like she was playing the role of concerned sibling. "Hi," I said, still trying to play normal. "What's going on?" Dad didn't get up. "You're late." "Traffic," I muttered, glancing around. No table set, no casserole in the oven, just silence pressing into the room like a fifth person. "Sit," he said. I sat on the armrest of the nearest chair, pulse starting to thrum. Derek slid a paper across the coffee table. A highlighted bank statement. "You've been taking money," he said, "from their account." I blinked. What? Verena jumped in like she'd rehearsed. "And you've been seeing that married guy. From St. Luke's. Plus you tried to flirt with my fiancé. He told me." I stared at them. "Are you serious right now?" "No one asked you," Mom whispered. "You've changed, Elena. We don't know who you are anymore. You're just throwing accusations at me like facts." "We had a family meeting," Dad said. "We've made a decision." There was a pause. "Then you're out of the trust, and it's best you leave. Tonight." I laughed, sharp and stunned. "You're kidding." Verena stood, brushed her dress smooth. "We packed your things already." Derek added almost proudly, "You have 1 hour." And just like that, the house I grew up in, the people I spent a lifetime trying to please, cut me loose like I was an expired receipt. No goodbye. Just a deadline. The room smelled like bleach and stale cigarettes, the kind of place where the curtains never fully close, and the buzzing from the AC unit is louder than your thoughts. I dropped their duffel bag by the foot of the bed, and sat. The mattress was too soft, slumping beneath me like even it didn't believe in support. I didn't cry, not yet. I just stared at the tan walls, the peeling Bible verse taped above the nightstand lamp. Something about forgiveness. The irony made my jaw ache. An hour passed, maybe more. Then the nausea started. Not sharp, just low and insistent, like something tugging from deep inside. I froze, counted backward, missed period 2 weeks. The cramping, the dizziness in the car. I stood too fast, dizzier now. Opened the door and walked 2 blocks to a 24-hour gas station, trying not to be sick on the sidewalk. The cashier didn't make eye contact when I bought the test. Neither did I. Back in the motel, I sat on the edge of the tub and watched the lines appear clear pink, unflinching, positive. I didn't scream. I didn't fall apart. I just stared at the mirror. I looked smaller, paler, but I was still there. I whispered, "You're not alone." The words floated in the air like they didn't know where to land. Then softer, one hand on my stomach. "You were the only truth they couldn't erase. No one knew, not yet, not Derek, not Verena, not Mom or Dad, especially not Grant. But something in me shifted, not in a movie moment kind of way. No music, no perfect lighting, just the kind of quiet hardening that happens when your world shrinks to a single plastic stick and the sound of your own breath. I wasn't just abandoned anymore. I was someone carrying life. I looked around the room, the frayed comforter, the dim ceiling bulb, the notepad by the phone, and for the first time in hours, I picked up the pen. Tomorrow, I would figure out what to do. Tonight, I would just be still, with the one truth still growing inside me. I found the diary tucked in the side pocket of the duffel bag, right beneath an old charger and a bottle of expired Tylenol. Black leather frayed edges, pages soft from years of being folded, stored, hidden. I hadn't opened it in a long time. Maybe I didn't want to see what I used to sound like, too hopeful, too trusting, too desperate to belong. But I needed something to anchor me, and my own words were the only ones left that hadn't turned on me. I flipped to a page at random. March 12th, junior year. Derek asked me to explain the gene sequencing section from our project. He kept nodding like he was fascinated. Then he repeated my exact words during the team pitch. Didn't even change the slide headers. Professor emailed the group praising his initiative. Dad printed it and stuck it on the fridge. I slammed the cover shut. Another page. July 7th, Grandma's house. Verena saw me wearing Grandma June's pearl bracelet. Said she only gave you that because she felt sorry you weren't pretty enough for pageants. I said nothing, but what she doesn't know, what no one does, is Grandma gave me her wedding ring. The sapphire one. I keep it hidden in the hollowed-out copy of Wuthering Heights. I breathed through the sting. After Grandma died, Verena announced during brunch she'd wear the ring as her something old. No one corrected her. No one looked at me. That was the moment, I think, when I stopped speaking up. I thought if I let them take the objects, I could still keep the meaning. But even memories feel stolen when no one else remembers them with you. I opened to the first page and wrote a single line in the corner. The ring wasn't the secret. I was. And they'd been erasing me long before they kicked me out. They just finally made it official. The text came 2 days later, just as I was staring out the motel window at a cracked parking lot and a soda machine with half the buttons missing. Are you in Austin? I'm driving through. Coffee? No hey. No how have you been? Just Grant. Blunt, steady, always giving me room to say no. I almost didn't respond. But then I looked down at my stomach. Still nothing visible. Still only real to me. Sure, I replied. We met at a diner that had been there since the 70s. The booths were cracked vinyl, the windows streaked with dust, the coffee bitter and overbrewed. I slid into a booth by the window. He walked in 2 minutes later wearing the same gray shirt I used to steal for study nights. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away either. Hi, I said. He nodded, sat, and pushed a mug toward me. Still like it black, I wrapped my hands around it. Yeah. We didn't talk about the past. Not yet. No mention of the last time we'd spoken, or the voicemail I never answered. The silence wasn't awkward. It was waiting. I cleared my throat. I'm pregnant. His expression didn't shift. Not even a blink. With twins, I added voice smaller than I intended. He reached into his coat, pulled out a pen, and scribbled something on a napkin. Then he slid it across the table. Together. I stared at the word. It looked so casual, half-formed letters, rushed ink, but it hit me harder than any speech could have. You don't even know what you're signing up for, I said, my voice dry. He finally looked at me, really looked. Maybe not, but I know what I'm not walking away from. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. For the first time in days, the weight in my chest didn't feel so heavy. He didn't ask for forgiveness, just a future. Back at Grant's apartment, I borrowed his laptop and sat at the kitchen counter for hours. No music, no distractions, just me and a blinking cursor, asking what I wanted this to be. I didn't have a business degree. I didn't have investors. I didn't even have a clear roadmap. But I had something better. Data, experience. A thesis that Derek had once stolen and pitched at a university competition, while I sat in the back row clapping for him like an idiot. He never even changed the file name. I opened the documents I'd kept buried in an old flash drive. Notes, diagrams, clinical projections, the bones of a biotech company focused on hormone diagnostics for underserved communities. That night, I registered the LLC under a name no one could erase, Rowlight Bio. Row for the past I couldn't change. Light for the part of me they never dimmed. Grant didn't hover. He just kept the tea warm and brought me a backup charger when mine started flickering. I think that's what love looks like sometimes. Someone who stays close enough to catch you, but far enough to let you rise on your own. The next morning, I made a list. Doctors to email, grants to apply for, legal paperwork to file. Then I opened my phone and went to contacts. Delete home, yes. Delete mom, yes. One by one, I wiped them away, not out of spite, out of necessity. They were ghosts now, and ghosts don't get front row seats in the life I'm building. Then the voicemail came. I almost didn't check it. The number wasn't saved. But curiosity won. My mother's voice clipped and cold. If you're still alive somewhere, stay gone. Verena's pregnant now. We don't need your drama. That was it. No hello, no apology, just a wall built from 7 seconds of rejection. I didn't cry. I saved it. Dragged it into a desktop folder labeled Proof. Inside that folder, I created a final tab. Just one line in bold font. She said stay gone. And that was all the permission I needed. The startup showcase was virtual, but I still dressed like I belonged. Navy blazer buttoned over my still hidden bump hair, pinned back, no makeup, just clear eyes and data that could speak louder than lineage. Grant helped me test the mic 3 times. Then he sat just out of frame, quiet and steady. I didn't need him to speak. Just knowing he was there was enough. Each founder had 3 minutes. No fluff. Just vision, traction, impact. When my name flashed onto the screen, I took a breath and clicked Share Screen. Slide 1, Clinical Data Projections. Slide 2, Market Gap Analysis. Slide 3, Hormonal Diagnostics for Underserved Women. I kept my voice even measured. Not a single mention of my past, just the science. The chat pinged steadily, some asking about timelines, others about revenue models. And then a judge leaned forward, squinting. You said Rowe Light Bio, he asked. Are you related to Elena Rowe Phoenix Gala Foundation? I froze for a beat. Every cell in my body screamed to deflect, to pivot. But then I looked at my name in the Zoom corner, Elena Rowe, and I thought about the voicemail, the trust being rewritten, the photo album in the trash. I looked straight into the webcam. No, I said. I don't have a sister. Silence. Like the internet itself held its breath. Then someone in the chat typed, "Whoa. Did she just damn? That's a power move." Grant's phone buzzed beside him, then mine. Then the Zoom chat lit up with links, screenshots, tags. I knew someone was already recording, already stitching it into a reel. But I didn't care, because for the first time the story wasn't about her. It wasn't about betrayal or biology or family scars, dressed in designer smiles. It was about me, a woman who built something without begging to be believed, a founder who didn't lead with trauma, but didn't flinch when the world brought it up either. As I clicked end call, my hands were steady. That was the first moment they saw me. The banner was 10 feet tall, silk-printed and floodlit, hanging outside the downtown gallery, where Verena's foundation was hosting a Women in Science gala. Her face, soft smile, arms crossed, eyes humble, took up most of it. Below, an elegant serif font read a quote pulled straight from my thesis abstract. Word for word, no attribution. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. The next morning, a manila envelope slid through the mail slot at Grant's apartment. Cease and desist bold across the top. Verena's signature at the bottom. She was accusing me of defamation, demanding I take down my pitch video, delete my website, retract public claims about the research I created. Claims, she said, that undermine the integrity of the Phoenix Gala Foundation and its mission to support women in innovation. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I'd finally stopped being surprised. I slid the letter into a folder and opened the one next to it, thicker, heavier. Inside were timestamped thesis drafts, lab notes, original pitch slides from 3 years ago, emails from professors, approval letters for grant submissions, recordings of me presenting the research Verena now claimed as hers. Every piece of proof, every receipt, at the bottom a finalized legal complaint. Drafted by Renee, a firebrand attorney I'd met through a startup legal incubator. She hadn't blinked when I told her who my family was. She only asked where the documents were. I hadn't filed it yet. I'd been waiting, hoping maybe that Verena would just disappear into her curated image and let me build mine. But that envelope, that was her swinging first. I closed the folder gently. The paper didn't deserve my rage. I turned to Grant, who stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the sun rise over Austin like it didn't know what was coming. "She thinks I won't fight back," I said. He didn't say a word, just walked over, handed me the folder and nodded. And this time I didn't hesitate. Let her swing first. I brought the fire this time. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Pale gray walls, buzzing fluorescence, and the low rustle of legal pads flipping open. Verena arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a cream sheath dress and oversized sunglasses like this was a photo op instead of a reckoning. Her lawyer stood beside her, slicked hair. Shiny shoes, all charm and no substance. I didn't look at her. I looked at the judge. "Your Honor," Renee began, calm and measured, "we're submitting documentation showing that the core research used to establish the Phoenix Gala Foundation was authored solely by my client, Dr. Elena Rowe. Emails, drafts, metadata, timestamps. Recordings clear as glass of Verena discussing the pitch before she'd even opened the file it came from. Then the audio file played. My mother's voice, Elena's too stubborn to control. She doesn't understand family is about appearance. Verena's. She had her chance. We'll do it cleaner without her." The room fell silent. Verena paled but didn't break. Not yet, she leaned in to whisper to her lawyer, but her mic was still on. "She'll settle. She doesn't have the stomach to finish this." I stood slowly, walked to the front with a USB in hand. "We're not seeking a settlement. We're requesting an injunction effective immediately." The judge raised an eyebrow. "On what basis? Intellectual property theft, fraudulent use of federal funding, defamation." She looked through the file Renee handed over, then back at Verena. "I see enough here to proceed. Effective today, Ms. Elena Rowe is barred from using, promoting, or profiting from any materials tied to the plaintiff's research or brand." No gavel slam, no applause, just a nod. But in that room, it sounded like thunder. Verena finally looked at me, but whatever mask she'd worn cracked right there under the buzz of courtroom lights. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. As the room emptied, reporters surged toward me. I kept walking. Our parents sat 2 rows back. Neither moved. Not even when Verena passed them. They watched her walk out alone. Even our parents didn't follow. The soil behind the house was stubborn, sun-baked and clumpy, but Leora didn't seem to mind. She crouched down with determination, patting it into place around the base of the orange sapling like she'd been doing this her whole life. "This one's Leo's tree," she announced proudly, brushing her hands together and pointing toward her brother, who was holding the lime tree upright with both hands. His tiny brow furrowed in concentration. "Okay, baby," I said. "But that one's going to need extra water, just like Leo." Grant chuckled from the other side of the small yard, where he was adjusting the ropes of a new wooden swing hanging from the pergola beam. He had sawdust in his hair and a pencil tucked behind his ear. His shirt was damp with sweat, but he looked peaceful, like this was the only kind of work that ever mattered. The trees stood crooked in the dirt, one orange, one lemon, one lime. Not perfect, not symmetrical, but real. Ours. We didn't have much. The backyard was narrow and boxed in by faded stucco walls. The garden tools were borrowed from a neighbor. But what we planted that morning wasn't just citrus. It was permanence. It was proof. After the kids went down for their nap, twin tangled limbs curled in mismatched blankets. I came into the kitchen and found an envelope on the counter. My name written in Grant's slow, careful handwriting. Inside was a photo, one I hadn't seen in years. From a long-ago family barbecue. Folding chairs, plastic cups, someone holding sparklers blurred in the background. And there I was, still in the frame, smiling shyly in Grandma June's hand-sewn blue dress, not cropped, not pushed to the edge. Right there, center right, like I'd always been meant to be included. I flipped the photo over. This is the version that matters. See, Grant had written in pen. I sat down slowly, holding it like something sacred, not because of what it captured, but because of what it restored. I wasn't fighting to be remembered anymore. I was building the kind of life you couldn't crop out. The air inside the conference center was crisp, almost artificial, like they'd pumped in confidence and filtered out doubt. People buzzed past in smart blazers and expensive shoes, all of them pretending not to care who was watching while secretly hoping everyone was. I walked in alone, not because Grant wasn't there, he was somewhere in the parking garage, wrestling the car seat and texting updates, but because this part needed to be mine. My name, my work, my voice. And then I saw it. Front and center in the entryway, a towering banner draped from top of ceiling to floor. Verena's face lit perfectly from above, hair swept back like she'd been sculpted, not born. Her smile was soft but sure, PR training in full effect. Underneath a quote, a future where women lead with both science and soul. My words, lifted directly from my thesis presentation. No footnote, no acknowledgement. Just her posing like she built the house I had been evicted from. I paused, just long enough for the sting to settle in my chest. Then I exhaled and walked past it. Elena Rowe Light Bio, the moderator, called from the side of the stage. I stepped into the spotlight, clicked the remote. Slide 1 molecular diagnostics breakdown. Slide 2 early detection rates in rural clinics. Slide 3 a photo of my bathroom mirror fogged from a shower. A sticky note barely clinging to the glass. You're not invisible. They just can't see what you're building yet. Then I spoke. Clearly, calmly, no rush, no apology. This company wasn't born in a boardroom. It was built in silence. In small rooms, between skipped meals and rejected grant proposals, I told them about hormone imbalances, about access, about what happened when we stopped designing science for women who could afford it and started designing it for the women who couldn't. I didn't mention Verena. I didn't need to, because by the time I finished, the only name anyone remembered was mine. I walked off stage to a still room, but it wasn't quiet. It was focused. I'd said what I came to say. They erased me once. I didn't fight to be remembered. I built something too real to ignore. If this story stirred something in you, hit like so more people can find it. Subscribe for more stories about women who rebuilt from silence. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been erased by the people who were supposed to see you? I'm listening.